Hello, everyone. This is part two of the Fatal Attraction series. So, I wanted to finish where I left off from the previous introduction. Um, so, with Sierra, okay, um, she was one of the people that at the time before I started, really kind of paying attention to the red flags, and before I started to kind of discover that if she wasn't necessarily a narcissist, then being around her is toxic. It's not good for me, and she's like a toxic influence. So before I started realizing this, um, I supported her. I supported her growth. I supported whatever she wanted to do in life, whatever career or success that she wanted to fulfill. I was always behind that 100%. I was very loyal to her. I wasn't perfect. It wasn't always times where I was kind to her, but I was very loyal to a fault with her. I trusted her. I confided in her, only for her to use every single thing I said to her against me, mercilessly at that. So, what am I talking about specifically? Um, well, for starters, it was a time where um, I want to say this was high school, and this is information, by the way, I didn't know about until later. Like I said, because when a person has a traumatic experience happen to them, there is a high chance that their mind would either block it out, suppress it, or they will just you know forget. Like sometimes a person can have like a blunt force trauma, and they'll suffer neurological damages that will make them forget the event that took place. So I don't know what happened that made me forget. I'm not entirely sure, but this happened during high school when her mom and my mom used to let me, like, we used to like sleep over at each other's house. More specifically, um, because like I was staying in an apartment at the time, and my grandmother was staying with me, my mom, and my sister, and it was only a two-bedroom apartment. It wasn't enough room to have company and, sleepovers and stuff. So if I did have a sleepover, I did have to go to a friend's house. That's just how it was, growing up poor. But anyway, this was during high school when her mom used to let me come over and spend the night on the weekend. And, like I said, me and her, we play video games all day, you know, chill, and then that was it, go to sleep eventually. Now there was a point in time where she had her room, it was like a bunk bed. It was a bunk bed, and it was I think it was like a twin size bed on the bottom, because that was where her little brother slept, and then there was a full size bed on the top. That was where she slept. Now, like I said, at the time where I spent the night, her brother, her little brother, and her little sister weren't there because they weren't there often. Like, that, I guess that was just the dynamic. And so I slept on the bottom bunk. And this was before she and I started dating. So before she and I started dating, I was sleeping at the bottom bunk. Now, I don't know how I got to the top bunk. I don't remember that part. But the only thing that I remember was that I was laying on the top bunk on her bed, her full size bed, and I was just laying there, and like it felt like I was dead, you know, like she had drugged me. I don't know what she did. I guess she put something in my drink, and I don't know what she put in my drink. If I could be entirely honest, I don't know what she put in my drink. She put something in my drink, but I don't know what she put in my drink, to be honest with you. I just remember she put something in my drink, and next thing you know, I'm in the bed laying down and I can't move a muscle. Like, I can't move at all. And I think this might have been when I was a freshman in high school. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just guesstimating. But this is definitely when I was in high school, but I think I was a freshman. And this is when I first started like talking to her and saying hi. I hadn't seen any red flags from her behavior from when I first met her. So, of course, from my perspective, I'm an unsuspecting victim, you know. So, like I said, when I approached her, I had good intents, to be her friend, and I didn't know that she had sinister intentions. I had no idea. It would explain why nobody talked to her, but I just assumed that because she was a new student, and she may have had a much harder time fitting in. You know how that goes sometimes. So that was what I thought. So when I approached her and I started talking to her, she seemed shy, maybe even a little bit friendly. And like I said, I passed it off as, oh, she's just shy. Um, anyway, so next thing you know, I'm in the bed. I'm in her bed laying down, and I can't move at all. Like, if anybody were to, be put in a position where they'd have to see me there laying there, they would probably think I was dead. Will probably even take me to the hospital. Like, the way I was looking when I was laying there, I looked dead. I felt dead. It felt like my soul had left my body and I was already gone. That's what it looked like. That's what it felt like. Okay, so whatever she put in my drink was so potent that it knocked me right out, and I was like dead. Like, I mean, or I either died and came back to life, or I was very close to being dead because I could not move. I could not remember anything. You know what I mean? So I'm laying there, right? She's laying next to me, and next thing you know, Malik, this guy, his name is Malik Shakur um, Woods, I think. And like I said, his last name is interchangeable. Sometimes he'll call himself Forrest, sometimes he'll call himself Woods. I guess it really depends on him. I don't know what his legal name is. I think it's Malik Shakur Forrest, I think. And I'm giving out his full name because people need to know who he is and what type of man he is. Like, people need to know. Okay? Um, so anyway, I'm laying there. Malik pops up. He's climbing up the bed, and he has this like sinister smirk on his face, like, yeah, he's about to get whatever he wants. He gets to have his way with me. I don't know why. I don't remember him from before I dropped out of high school. Like, I really don't remember him at all. That's the thing. Like, whatever encounters that I had with him, I didn't start remembering until now. Like, he was always in the picture. But I'm not going to talk about him right now. My focus is Sierra. That's my focus. Okay. Now, you'll probably hear other names interchangeably when I talk about her, but that's all the many men that she's gotten involved in sex trafficking me or participating in the sex trafficking. So, I'm laying in her bed. I'm knocked out. He climbs up. He climbs up the little ladder of the bunk bed, and he's creeping up behind me. I don't know why, but he's creeping up behind me, and I don't know why. I'm too like I'm too passed out to even. I'm just too far gone to be able to stop him. So I'm laying there. Next thing you know, he's assaulting me. He's raping me at this point. I'm laying there. It looks like I'm dead, and he's just having his way with me because somebody that I trusted drugged me so that they could open up my body to having sex with unconsensual sex with men that I did not consent to having sex with. Um, I'm sure y'all, some of y'all who, watch my videos, watch my content are thinking, how diabolical is that? How evil is that? How, you know, messed up does somebody head have to be to do something that sinister, especially to someone who loved you, supported you, was loyal to you, and did nothing but good for you. It has to be some level of evil in somebody's heart and mental illness in somebody's mind where you're able to do that to somebody, you know, and then play the victim. The type of person that Sierra was, she was the type of person who caused a lot of chaos in many people's lives, screwed people over, was selfish, manipulated people. She was an emotional bully. I mean, she's done so much damage that anybody who would have dealt with her, I'm gonna just stop right there because I don't want to incriminate myself, but the ways in which she behaved towards people that were close to her, that cared about her, that supported her, was the type of behavior that could make somebody that was loyal to her, like it would make their blood boil and make them want to hurt her and attack her. The way she acted, the way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the way she, screwed people over, how selfish she was. The way she acted was enough to make somebody attack her off of that alone. Okay, so let me explain why I say that because that's a bold statement. When it comes down to the topics of violence, they say that you have to be very careful what you say and how you say it. But Sierra was not that type of person that, even for a second, took any care in how she treated a person. She had no value for really anybody's life or what they had to go through. The only thing she cared about was if she was going to get what she wanted, if she was going to make some money, and how her life and how her success was going to turn out. She didn't care about anyone else but herself. And anyone that called her selfish, instead of her looking from within and finding out why people were calling her that, she would always argue. She would always have to have the last word, and she would emotionally manipulate people into being quiet. That was how she was very covert. She made it nearly impossible to strike her, even though she deserved it. Like that was the type of woman she was. I just want to warn the community to look out and watch out for women like this who appear to be gentle and sweet and soft, and because they're small, they use their size to emotionally manipulate a person into not attacking them. you know, be wary of women out there that are like that. I'm a woman now, and I think it's appropriate for me to be able to say this. I'm not coming from a place of trying to stand up for abusive men that like to hit women. No, there's a difference. There are some women who go out of their way to try to break a person, whether it's a child, another woman, a friend, their man, their husband, their father. It's some spoiled ass, ungrateful women out there that will go out of their way to use toxic femininity to control and dominate every environment and squeeze other people out of their money and resources. These are the type of women nowadays that we need to look out for. Because at first there was an imbalance of power where men had all the power and women were seen as the victim. Now we need to start looking out for these female predators, these female apex predators that use psychological and emotional manipulation to avoid accountability for their behavior. These are the type of women that you find dead in their home because they did something so awful, so gruesome, that the only thing you could do next was snap and kill her ass. These are the type of females that you really got to watch out for, men. Even ladies that like to date women or just in general, like these are the type of women that are a cancer to the community. These are the type of women that live long, 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 long lives, going under the radar, destroying children, destroying good men, destroying the confidence and the self esteem of good women. These are the type of cancers in the community you got to look out for. Women like these who who emotionally manipulate and play the victim to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Those are some of the most dangerous people on this earth. Not the brute men that tear through walls and move trucks with their bare hands. Those motherfuckers are harmless in comparison to a small, seemingly fragile woman who's really senile, bitter, and diabolical. Those are the people you really need to look out for. Some of these women who are who are wise beyond their years, who use the wisdom and the intelligence that they have for evil, to be conniving. Those are the people you got to look out for these days. Some of them is women. Some men will use these tactics because they realize that emotionally manipulating a person into not holding them accountable seems to be the way to get out of certain charges these days. These are the type of people that you got to look out for. These are the wolves in sheep's clothing. They come to you disguised as a wolf, making you believe that they want you as their shepherd. And you have no idea that you're talking to a whole canine. You have no idea until it's too late. Okay, so that was my little side note. Now let me get into what happened. So I'm laying there and it looks like I'm fucking dead. And Malik comes upstairs, comes up the bunk, and he lays next to me. He rapes me. Essentially, he rapes me. He raped me many times. Okay, this wasn't something that just happened once or twice and then we move on. He had been doing this for years, coming to me while I'm asleep in the middle of the night and raping me, and then I'm left with the aftermath of being raped and not knowing that I was being raped. Imagine how dehumanizing that is, to where you can't even go to sleep because you got rapists living in your home that your mother allowed in and your sister turned a blind eye to. Imagine how unsafe I felt. Imagine how my womanhood was systematically digged at and tore at and taken away from me. Even my masculinity was attacked. Doing something like that to somebody, allowing something like that to happen, being personally responsible for why somebody got raped and setting up the scene for that to happen. Imagine how grimy that is. Imagine, one of your child's friends, um, who you think is a good little kid, right? You say, imagine you got a daughter, and she brings one of her childhood friends home, and is like, hey, I would like for you to meet this person. So you meet the daughter's little friend, and then you meet the friend's family, right? Because most parents, they're very protective. Good parents, they're very protective of their children for reasons that are understandable now. That considering the experience that happened to me, it made me realize why some parents are strict, why some parents, are seemingly overbearing, but they're just trying to protect their child, you know. But anyway, so imagine you got a daughter and you meet your daughter's friends family. So you meet the parents, you meet the other family members, you go to the house, you see where they live, you get an idea of what they do throughout the day, right? Because that's what protective parents are naturally going to do, right? And it seems like everything checks out. So you want your daughter, you want your child to have a life, you want them to have friends. And so, it seems like everything checks out. You don't know that your daughter's friend is a psychopath. Sometimes there's not always a way of knowing. You're stuck with two choices. You can either ruin your child's childhood by not allowing them to have any company or any friends, or you find out the hard way. I mean, you're left with two choices, and it's very unfortunate because in situations like this, you have really no way of knowing if someone is a psychopath, especially if their IQ is extremely high enough to where they can hide those tendencies, to where no one notices them. A lot of psychopaths specifically go undetected. It's the Machiavellians and the sociopaths that people find out about first. The psychopaths are the ones who are hidden behind everybody else. They're the worst of the worst narcissists, and quite frankly, because of the crimes that they commit, They have to. It's mandatory for them to stay under the radar. The only reason why a lot of these psychopaths are coming out of the closet is because they realize that there is a shadow government that supports them and will let them off. They know that the Freemasons at this point right now tip the scales of the balance of power. So a lot of them they get off with the slap of the wrist, while people like me who go inside a grocery store and take a little bit of food because I'm starving get arrested. So this is the dynamic that we're now faced with. I just wanted to kind of make that clear. So the reason why psychopaths like my ex-girlfriend stay under the radar is because they know that they're socially unacceptable. Their behavior is socially unacceptable. They know that they're not going to have any real friends by backstabbing people. They know the routine. They know psychology 101 and they know sociology 101. So they know what they're doing. Okay? Now, okay, so it's established that this Malik person is a rapist, right? And it's established that my ex-girlfriend Sierra is a sadistic psychopath. I'm gonna call her C because I don't feel comfortable using her full name, but I'm sure you guys at this point know who she is. At this point, I said her full name, first, middle, and last. Now I'm just gonna use the abbreviated version. Okay. Um. So she did that. I didn't. She had been doing this from high school all the way till now. She. It's fair to say that she was my sex trafficker. She made a lot of money off of me being raped, off of her setting me up to be raped. She made a lot of money from drugging me and setting me up to be raped. She made a lot of money from stealing from my own bank account. She made a lot of money from taking loans out under my name. She made a lot of money by stealing ideas, taking my notebooks, my journals, my rhyme books, my energy. She made a lot of money off of enslaving me and holding me hostage because that's essentially what she did. She held me hostage. Anytime I tried to leave the house to go to the grocery store to go get some water, she'd be like, "Where you going?" In that like creepy ass way. Or anytime one of my friends would reach out to me and be like, "Hey, it's been a while since I've seen you. You know, what's up?" And I'd be like, "Well, I mean, I gotta go out and hang out with this person, or they're gonna start asking questions." She made sure to cancel that. So it just got to the point where, she had gotten away with abusing me for so long that the control issues that she flexed upon my life had no limits. So even if it meant it drew suspicious eyes on her, she continued to go without a second thought for my life. So it was getting to the point where she was so controlling, where it was getting to the point where people started to notice. They noticed something. They may not have known that she was the problem, but they knew something was wrong. They knew something was up. Something was wrong because she would always complain about me. She would always create these dynamics in my life to where she made it very difficult for me to be kind to her. She created dynamics in my life where she would intentionally play with my emotions and then say I would spaz out on her because I got fed up with the way she was treating me. And then she would go vent to somebody that I knew personally that was a friend of mine. She would do very manipulative things like that. Very manipulative. And it got to the point where, people started to see and they were like, at first they thought she was just venting and, they thought that she was just going to them for advice. That's what they thought at first. And then it got to the point where she was always talking bad about me. Always. And it started to look bad on me because, well, I didn't know she was doing that. Nobody came to me and said, "Hey, yo, girl, she talking trash. She talking filthy, yo. You might want to defend yourself. Something." No, nobody told me that. Nobody told me anything. So, because I was loyal and I didn't know the way she was really treating me, when my eyes were closed, when my head was turned, I didn't know. So when people were looking at me funny and they would ask why I was still dating her, and they would just ask me all these questions, and I would ask them, hey, why do you ask me that? I was standing up for her at the time because, like I said, I didn't know how she was treating. I didn't know how badly she was treating me. She was doing it in a very sneaky way to where I wouldn't have known, what she was doing, and no one would tell me. I would ask people, why do you speak so negatively of her? Like, what's wrong? What's going on? And a lot of them knew that I didn't know what was going on. A lot of them, they tried to clown me like I was just a simp. And they knew that I didn't know. Some people knew damn well that I had no idea what was going on, and they made fun of that. They knew that I had been drugged, and they knew that I didn't know. This is why I had to start cutting people off, because it's one thing to assume that I knew. That's bad communication and a misunderstanding. It's a possibility to get through that. But it's another thing to know that I have no idea what's going on and kicking me while I'm down, asking me questions to see what I know. That is very diabolical. Very diabolical. So anyway, so yeah, so she does this for many, many years. And it's getting to the point where her drugging me and forcing me to have sexual relationships with men that I did not consent to having, it's starting to cause damage to my health. I'm starting to develop these allergies. My hair's falling out. I'm putting on weight excessively. I'm losing weight excessively. I have this bad body odor that I can't do anything about. Like, I mean, it didn't matter how many times I took a shower. If I took a shower 2 times a day, 3 times a day, it was a smell that I could not scrub off, wash off, soak off. The smell followed me everywhere. And that was embarrassing. Little did I know, the reason why I had that really bad odor was because I was being sex trafficked and labor trafficked with no shower in between. Some of y'all, it may not really like click or process for some of y'all how evil that is to do to a child. Some of y'all haven't really fully processed that yet. That I was, 14, 15, going through this. It's already hard enough to go to high school. It's already hard enough to go to school, let alone high school. So I had enough problems with self esteem and all that enough when I was going to high school. And to add on top of that, me being human trafficked, my innocence being chipped away at me by someone who I thought was my friend. I showed so much support for her at the extent of me not having support from people. I made that risk. I put the relationship I had with my mother and my family members at risk to be with this person, to be with her. I mean, it wasn't just about being with her. The reason why I did it was because of my moral principles. If people don't accept me for being gay, they gotta go. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. Once a person has made it clear to me that they don't accept my lifestyle and my choice, they had to go. It was nothing that the only way that a homophobe could really sit in my face and chill with me and laugh with me and be on good terms is if they pretended like they were okay with my lifestyle. That was the only way that someone who was homophobic can be anywhere near me, is that they fake the funk. Some people like to fake the funk to stay around and get what they want from you. And then when you catch on to them, or when they no longer can use you, they'll show you how they really feel. Some people are like that, and my ex-girlfriend was one of those people. Okay? Now, in the midst of her drugging me, yes, drugging me, putting drugs in my drink while I'm sleeping over her house. Now, in the midst of this happening, she and I both were getting heat for being gay, for being lesbians, and rejecting all male options to be together. At least that was what I assumed. But she started getting heat too. We were both getting heat. It seemed like I was getting more of it because I was the more masculine one. So I guess a lot of men felt that they needed to challenge me specifically. You know, to be honest with you, I don't really understand the full psychology behind that. But all I know is that ever since I came out as a lesbian and I made clear my preference, which was feminine women, I had a whole bunch of alpha males who, you know, would go on these witch hunts. It didn't matter if the alpha male was black, white. It didn't matter if they were tall, short, heavy, skinny, muscular. It just seemed like no matter what, there was always these group packs of alpha males who would just attack me. And you know, for those who are new to my content, let me just let you know, I've never claimed to be a man. A lot of people misunderstand me being a tomboy as wanting to be a man. People need to do their research before talking shit. Make sure that when you're dealing with someone that you don't know and that you don't understand or you disagree with, that you do your research before you come talking bullshit. Because the person that you don't understand or that you don't agree with could flip the narrative and make you look like a dumb asshole. Okay? So, what a lot of people don't know about a tomboy or women who call themselves tomboys are basically just saying that a tomboy is basically a, a soul of a male, of a man, that reincarnates and enters into the body of a woman. It is Asiatic terminology. It's the same thing with a tom girl. This is the soul of a woman that reincarnates back on this earth and enters the carnal vessel of a man. Okay? That's just that simple. When we reincarnate, I like to think that a lot of us, some of us, especially if we're reincarnating for karmic reasons, we don't necessarily get to choose what body we enter. The whole point is for this to be a karmic lesson. So when you come and you're dealing with somebody that's different and that you don't necessarily like or agree, make sure you do your research before you talk shit, because you sound and look like a clown. Okay? A lot of these alpha males that approach me via my ex-girlfriend's consent charged at me thinking that they were picking at an insecurity. No, because some of us women are masculine in nature. Some of us women are tomboys. We consider ourselves tomboys, butch, whatever title you want to put on it. And some of us actually accept ourselves for who we are and the bodies that we're born into. Okay? So let's clear that up for the assholes who choose to embody toxic masculine energy and act like this. No, asshole. Some of us are aware of who we are and what body we were born in, but we're just different and we acknowledge our differences. Now, whether us being content with who we are and our uniqueness makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't really matter to us. It really doesn't matter if it makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't, because we don't go to sleep thinking, oh, I wonder if this toxic masculine is going to be bothered by the fact that I'm a masculine woman, or I wonder if this toxic masculine is going to be okay with the fact that I'm a feminine male. No, a lot of us don't think about you at all. And quite frankly, your hate brings money. So, like, who are you fooling at this point? Okay, so let me go back to where I was going. I just wanted to make that little side note. So I noticed that, as I'm, in this relationship with her, um, we are both getting heat. I'm getting most of it, but we're both getting heat for being lesbians. And because a lot of men have come to us and approached us either wanting sex or wanting a relationship. And I know I can't speak for her, but I know that for myself, I've always turned a lot of men down. But in this particular instance, I turned it down for real. Like I wasn't willing to be friends. I wasn't willing to hang out. Some of them, I had to turn them down cold because they weren't getting the fact that not only was I not interested, but I was in a relationship with somebody else. I feel like when it comes down to rejecting someone, if you do it the right way and you consider their feelings, it should be no misunderstanding. It should be no reason why they hound out dogging you. This is that toxic masculinity that I'm addressing again. So we both started getting heat for this. A lot of men charging at us more than they usually have. And she's getting overwhelmed by the heat. And at this point, um, like I said, I'm staying in her room, and she's like, basically, I gotta break up with you. You gotta go. Now, mind you, when she made this statement, this was during the time where my brother had died. This is during the time where my brother got killed. And she knew about it, by the way. I did. She was the first person that I told. Well, no, she was the second person I told. Um, yeah, but I was staying with her. My mother, she was overbearing. My sister, was an enabler. So was my grandmother, and I just couldn't stay with my mother anymore. And I was getting a lot of heat. My ex was getting a lot of heat, and I had revealed to her that I had, my brother had just gotten killed, and I was just having a really tough time, with life. I at that time I was contemplating suicide at that time because I was going through so much, and the sad part about that was that she was the only light in my life at the time, even though she was doing some grimy ass shit. She was putting a smile in my face and giving me all this love, but behind my back she was doing me foul. But the unfortunate part about that is that she was the only light in my life at that time. Everybody else was just overtly cruel, whereas she was sinister. She was covertly sinister. You know what I mean? So I'm sure some of y'all could imagine that I was really in a tough place. Um, so she says basically, I can't be with you anymore. I have to break up with you. Um, you can't stay here. I'm sure some of y'all could probably imagine how painful that was. Um, so I packed up my bags and I called up, my best friend at the time, which was Ivan. I called him up and I asked him to send me a Uber, to come through because he had already offered, to help me, but I told him no because I was in a relationship and I didn't think it would be appropriate. But at that point, I had no other choice but to take him up on his offer. And he was just basically telling me about the shed that his neighbors had in the back, and he be the lookout, and he would do whatever he could to help, and I appreciated that. So he was like, yeah, come through, come sleep at the shed, just don't be too obvious, make sure you look and make sure the neighbors aren't watching, and I'm not gonna say anything, and I'll be a lookout, and just text me and let me know um, when you're about to leave so I can be a lookout. He did show a lot of support. Um, he did help me a lot.
So I left, and I had stopped talking to her for about a month or two. I'm not really sure how long it was that I stopped talking to her for, but I was really hurt. Just because I at that point that was when I started to realize how selfish that she was. I mean, I had some gratitude towards her for letting me stay there, but it was like my life was falling apart, and the only thing that she was concerned about was herself. And I thought she and I were in it together. That's what she had me under the impression that she and I were in it together. And my grades were falling apart. My hair was falling out. My health was declining. She could see that I was depressed. She could see that I stopped taking care of myself, and she just let me fall, and took all the energy that I invested into the relationship and left me stranded. That was the type of person that she was. And her mother knew that about her, and she did warn me. That's one thing I will say, is that she did warn me that her daughter was selfish as hell. And by then, though, she warned me when I was already like in it. I was in too deep, and I had nowhere else to go. um I wish that her mother had warned me of this earlier, because I would have definitely done something about it sooner. But her mother, when she warned me, it was too late. Her mother had many chances to warn me during the beginning of the friendship, and she did not warn me at all until we started dating. um anyway, so at this point, I stopped talking to her for a little while. I don't know how long I'm going to stop. I didn't know how long I was going to stop talking to her. I just stopped talking to her. I think it was maybe 2 months. I'm not really sure. But I stopped talking to her for a minute. And, I just kind of, I block her number, and the only way that she can get a hold of me is through my best friend at the time. And he would just relay messages back and forth, and I just ignored them for a while. Honestly, I honestly don't know why I went back to her. To be honest, I don't remember. I truly don't remember, because once I moved in with my best friend, that was it. You know what I'm saying? The relationship was over. Like, I just, at that point, I didn't love her anymore. At that point, when she left me hanging like that, I didn't love her anymore. When my best friend at the time showed me all that support and had my back, it was like, sometimes when you go through a bad breakup and you have really good friends there that support you and show you love, that it's enough to help you get over that person. That's what Ivan was for me at the time. He was the only one that was willing to throw me a little bit of bread every now and then. He would make sure that I was eating. He make sure that I had some water. He would do things for me that nobody else was willing to do at the time. Not even my own so-called girlfriend. Like I said, my health was deteriorating, and the only thing she was concerned about was getting the heat off of her. So that kind of let me know what type of person she was. And in all honesty, I don't know why I went back to her. I think, the only thing that was keeping she and I connected was my best friend. If it had not been for him, I would have stopped talking to her the moment I moved out. Um, I think the reason why she and I stopped talking was because, or started talking back again, was because I think this was, I don't remember when this happened. Like, this was like, while I stopped talking to her, but I had gotten news through my best friend at the time that she I guess she got kicked out along with her sister. Her and her sister were like only like 9 months apart, so they're